I'm really happy to be here. I'm here to talk to you today about my favorite magazine, National Geographic. My mom is actually where this starts. My mom suggested years ago that whenever you find yourself in a garage sale, a yard sale, a flea market, and you find yourself flipping through stacks and stacks of magazines, look for a magazine. Doesn't matter what the magazine is. Modern Bride, TV Guide, Popular Mechanic. Look for the month and the year of your birth. Doesn't matter what the magazine is. Because that is a snapshot of the world the year you entered the world. And buy that magazine and keep it for yourself. And I did that. I was in Cabbagetown some years ago, and I found in a big stack in a garage sale this National Geographic from August 1975, the year I entered the world. So I was extra delighted when I flipped through the magazine and found out that one of the stories is in fact the new Toronto. That's what we're going to talk about today, folks. This is the new Toronto. Written by Ethel A. Starbird, a staff author or a staff writer from National Geographic from the 1960s and 70s. She came to Toronto, interviewed a ton of people. I'm going to read from this article for you today. I'm going to show you some truly unbelievable photographs. And I'm going to interject with my own voice and give you a little bit of updated facts and whatnot for 2024. Are we ready? There we go. The portly New Yorker picked up his briefcase and prepared to deplane in Toronto. Would you believe it? This is my 5th trip up here in a month. You own a company, my wife says. Send somebody else. I tried that with my sales manager. He never came back. Such is the danger of doing business in today's Toronto, home of rapid riches and solid fortune, a vibrant pace and quiet challenge. For this once sedate city has become a rival to reckon with, worldly, wealthy, personable, and relatively problem-free. Long known as the good and the dull, Toronto began in the late 1940s to reject its role of drab stepsister to Montreal, then the darling of the Dominion. A set of happy circumstances hastened this transformation. She goes on in great detail to list these transformations, but I'll praise them here for you. In 1954, the St. Lawrence Seaway opened. It opened up Toronto's port to international continental shipping. We found ourselves between the ocean, Detroit, and Chicago for the first time. Post-war population after the Second World War, it's only 30 years since the end of the Second World War. Meant that 1/4 of Canada's population lived within a 100-mile radius of Toronto. And according to National Geographic, Cinderella had arrived at the ball. For the record, I'm not sure you can all read the captions here, but that is a shop front reflecting another shop front in Murdoch Village. Toronto quests for elbow room along Lake Ontario's northwestern shore. Ontario Place packs a 98-acre recreation world on man-made islands and elevated pavilions. Its globe-shaped Cinesphere splashes movies across a 6-story screen. A crowded arena attests to Toronto's love of boating. Catwalks link the complex to another crowd pleaser, the Canadian National Exhibition. Downtown, the CN Tower will soon dominate the skyline, a dramatic symbol of Toronto's spectacular growth. This is Exhibition Stadium. Over there, the Toronto Blue Jays are 2 years away from existing. They would not play their first opening game until April of 1977. Established as a French fur trading post in 1750, Ontario's capital has more than doubled her population to 2.3 million in the past 30 years. I'm going to read that again. Ontario's capital has more than doubled her population to 2.3 million in the past 3 years. That growth makes Toronto Canada's 2nd largest city after Montreal and 13th largest in North America. Recent concern about such growth has led to limits on downtown high-rises. I'll get to more of that. Depending on sources, I did a little bit of Google and found some different sources. Toronto is now in 2024 between the 8th and 10th most populous city in North America. Construction began on the Canadian National Tower in 1973 and will reach completion in 1976, reaching 1/3 of a mile above the downtown core. Its main goal is to increase the radio and television transmission signals in the Toronto area, the second being a main tourist draw. Cost is $40 million, and when it opens, glass-fronted elevators with a view outside will whisk sightseers on a thrilling ride to the skyline, a 7-story restaurant observation deck area. That is Ross McWhorter with the thing. He's from the Guinness Book of World Records, and he was there in Toronto to confirm the 1,815 and 5-inch height. For those of you who may not have your bearings, that is the ramp house that still exists. That's the Steam Whistle Brewery and that big arcade, Sky Dome is right here, and I believe that is the Metro Convention Center, all up to you. Does anyone know Sparkles? Sparkles was a nightclub that opened about 1978 in the Sky Pod. This was not in the National Geographic, but I remember it. I didn't remember, I was only 4. But Block TO and a few other Toronto sources helped me find it. Look at her. It dubbed itself. I love the brunch, the hangover brunch too. It dubbed itself in 1977 the highest nightclub in the world. And in 1977, I have no fucking doubt. It was the highest. Yorkville. Taste of the city slows to a stroll in Yorkville, a 4-block downtown preserve of smart shops, gourmet restaurants, and art galleries. Developers liberated Yorkville in the late 1960s, carving evidence from a seedy drug culture hangout. The drug culture hangout they're referring to refers to coffee shops like the Riverboat and the Penny Farthing, which launched the careers of course, Joni Mitchell, Gordon Lightfoot, Neil Young, and Buffy Sabre. I did try to look up Gregor's, and I tried to look up the Oyster something or other, just so I could find out what this street was and get a little Google Street View, and I could not find it. But I have no doubt these buildings are pros and cons of a cultural mix. Some 50% of Toronto's 2.3 million inhabitants were born outside Canada. Can you guys hear me if I stand back? I feel like I'm blocking out. Since World War II, outsiders have been flooding in at an average rate of 15,000 to 20,000 a year. In many ways, Toronto resembles New York City of a half century ago. However, New York then sought to blend diverse cultures into one big stew, while Toronto finds a more nourishment and a mixed salad, where each minority retains its own distinct flavor. That is not the last food metaphor that was Tougher immigration laws have begun to slow entries, and the present point system favors those with education, essential skills, experience, guaranteed jobs, and knowledge of French or English, the country's 2 official languages. But support is growing for even stiffer rules. We couldn't have progressed so far without our new Canadians, one lifelong resident tells me. However, we're beginning to feel the pinch of unemployment and rising welfare costs. To continue as mother to the world would only invite more headaches. Immigrants have made this a cosmopolitan city. You see their influence everywhere, says Johnny Lombardi, founder of Gin, Toronto's multicultural radio station. From the combination grocery store lunchroom on College Street, in the heart of the city's Italian district, he says, like the Italians, most immigrants don't want to assimilate. We prefer to stay in our own neighborhoods, close to our own schools and our churches. There's a short passage on transit. They didn't have any photos of transit, but I found this on Blog TO. Even at normal fares, 40 cents each or 3 tokens for $1. 70% of all Toronto commuters prefer Toronto's fast and frequent public transit. The frustrations and plot time. The excellent network combines a cross-shaped subway system with streetcars and buses, speeding patrons to any point with local transportation. Making public transportation pay for itself only leads to rising rates and declining use, says one official. We spend whatever we must to get good service at low cost. It's certainly more sensible to entice people out of their cars than to go on building roads. It's worth noting Nathan Phillips Square, City Hall, was 14 years old in 1975. With so much going on downtown, space to do it all has become a problem. The developers reach skyward. High-rises begin to blot out delightful, low-profile neighborhoods, many of ethnic and historic significance. One of the stormiest disagreements at present in City Council revolves around future development and how to best relieve the critical housing shortage. Even those provocative signs that say bachelor, furnished, inquire within have become a rarity. With Toronto's livability endangered, preservation-minded Mayor David Crombie and his 1973 City Council proposed a 2-year moratorium on all construction over 45 feet tall. 45 feet is 3 stories. The province of Ontario overruled this ban, so David Crombie retaliated by withholding permits. The problem remains, how to accommodate growth without destroying the delicate balance that makes this one of the most civil cities in the Americas. The Chinese have already lost ground to expansion in the downtown core, retreating west along Dundas Street as massive projects like the new City Hall erode their holdings. We know this as the war. Some shift was inevitable, the lovely Jean Lum told me as we lunched at her Kwong Chow Tavern on Elizabeth Street. Popular and persuasive, she has been instrumental in forestalling efforts to move her close-knit community elsewhere. We Chinese have an inherited feeling of family, of togetherness, that will be lost with relocation or dispersal. Toronto is like a big family too. Big, noisy, and certainly not all alike. We have so much to give one another. She pointed to the chopsticks I was using instead of a fork. Already you've accepted something of our ways. A small thing, but it pleases us both. This is Jean Lum at Kwong Chow Tavern. Behind her is the back of City Hall. That's on Elizabeth Street, so she's facing north of Dundas. The photographer is facing down, obviously, to City Hall. That's Jean Lum. Just about a year or two after this National Geographic article, she was invested in the Order of Canada. I also wanted to mention that the Jean Lum Public School is now operating in City Place down by Skydome. And Jean Lum Lane is on Huron in Grange Street, and she passed away in 2002. Around Beverly Street, on the trailing end of Chinatown, education and social centers cater exclusively to Austrians, Jews, Poles, Italians, and those with the greatest seniority in situ, Canadian Indians. Kensington Market, a boisterous open-air bazaar a few blocks west of Chinatown, nurtures many a rags-to-riches dream. For here, young clerks learn to hustle on sidewalks, overflowing with fresh produce, live poultry in cages, strings of aromatic sausages, stacks of beans, eels in tubs, and wheels of cheeses. Once a Jewish stronghold, the market recently became predominantly Portuguese, but Greek, Spanish, Italian, and West Indian merchants add other exotic ingredients to a lusty international brew. It's disappointing. She wrote so many nice things about Kensington, but it's the only Kensington photograph, but I love the chicken. But this is still very much a city of shopkeepers, among whom Edwin Murdish reigns as Barnum of the bargain trade. Keystone of his kingdom is Honest Ed's, a clamorous cash-and-carry madhouse on Bloor Street West at Bathurst Street. Kooky signs almost conceal its walls inside and out. One warns, don't faint. At these prices, folks, there's no room to lie down. When the magnificent old Royal Alexandra Theatre on King Street West was threatened with demolition, nobody offered to come to its rescue, except Murdish, who purchased the 68-year-old landmark, restored its Edwardian elegance, and has managed to turn a profit on it ever since. It's a fantastic quote by Murdish himself. A lot of people who wouldn't be caught dead with Honest Ed's shopping bag now hail me as patron of the arts. The Royal Alex Theatre showed here in 1975. I did a bit of research. The Murdish website actually has some great archives, and in 1975 they were featuring Noel Coward's Private Lives, starring Dave Madison. There is so much more to this article, folks. I could keep you here all night. There's 200 people that have a chance to talk. They mentioned the Science Center. She talks to Sick Kids Hospital. She enters the chief of staff, talks to them, talks to Sam the Record Man, talks about the U of T research laboratories, neighborhoods on Ward's Island, and the Maple Leafs. I would take far too much time to cover it all, but thank you so much for your time.